Dead to Rights 2 is a straight-up non-stop killing spree. It's a game made in the style in which games used to be made, where they didn't need to justify anything about themselves, and the conflict of having to kill a bunch of dudes was good enough. You play as a cop named Jack Slate, who basically gets to run around and murder everyone who stands in his way. There are a few dumb brawling sequences thrown in for a little bit of variety, but actually, if you're looking for variety, this isn't your game. Dead to Rights 2 has two types of gameplay. The brawling parts are thankfully few and far between, while the shooting parts make up the vast majority of the game. Pretty much every level is identical, but luckily the shooting is actually a lot of fun. It looks like some kind of a Max Payne ripoff, but it actually plays quite a bit differently, in that you don't actually need to aim. You auto-target your nearest enemy with a touch of a button, so gameplay is really reflex-driven as you're forced to constantly take down maybe a half dozen guys at a time. And that's pretty much all you do. The game is definitely in the spirit of the old arcade classics, in which all the flashy violence and twitch-driven gameplay was an end unto itself. Apart from shooting people in the face using a bunch of different guns, Dead to Rights 2 gives you some other abilities. You can perform some pretty spectacular-looking disarm moves that instantly kill your foe, you can take an enemy as a human shield, and you can also sick your dog on people. And, of course, you can dive in slow motion and shoot a bunch of dudes while in midair. Each level also seems to have just enough health and armor power-ups to allow you to barely make it to the end, so there's a good level of challenge. More than anything, though, this game just feels raw. It's like they made sure that the core killing action was solid, and then slapped a bunch of levels together and called it a day. The game's got no rhyme or reason to it. The plot's practically incoherent, as you'll go from a shooting level straight into a brawling level without any explanation at all. Suddenly you just don't have any guns. But who cares? This is one of those games that you play for release. It's pure, senseless action. It's rife with swearing and savage violence to boot. There aren't many games that have more cussing in them than this one, and some of Jack Slate's moves are so nasty they'd probably make the Punisher squirm. If one aspect of the game feels like a throwback to the old days more than any other, though, it's probably the music. It's just these short little loops and beats that help drive you along around the next corner that has a bunch of bad guys waiting for you. Dead to Rights 2 is available for the Xbox and PS2, and both versions of the game are about the same. The controls are equally as responsive in both cases, but the Xbox version looks cleaner and sharper, and maybe a little more colorful than on the PS2. Still, the added clarity brings out the simplicity of the game's look, which definitely isn't bad, but isn't all that impressive. Dead to Rights 2's got it where it counts, though. It's also worth mentioning that, as a sequel, Dead to Rights 2 can be pretty disappointing. The original game was pretty ambitious, since it was loaded with original mini-games, as well as a memorable crime saga storyline. This sequel strips the original experience down to the barest essentials. The core gameplay is similar, but the experience ends up feeling a lot different. Dead to Rights 2 is a lot of things. It's short, it's dumb, it's simple, it's crass. Society is going to think you're a homicidal maniac if you admit to liking this game, and it's definitely not worth full price since it doesn't last long and has no multiplayer or any of that stuff. But with all that said, this game is rad. Seriously, it's not a particularly good game, but that doesn't mean it's not worth playing if you're into this sort of thing.